Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast, brought to you by Phoenix Boats. Now, here are your hosts, Alabama Bass Trail Program Director, Kate Donaldson.
Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kate Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and your host for this week's podcast. I guess pretty much your host for every week's podcast. I guess I could eliminate that a little bit from my opening, but I do want to welcome you into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. We are recording just a tad early, pre-recording for the week of August the 12th, my birthday, but also the day I'll be closing on my new house. So this will be the last time. This will be the scene for the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. We are working on a new background and podcast setup. It will not be ready probably till the first of the year, but we are working on that. But this is a little emotional for me to be recording this podcast for the last time in this home. I've been here a little over 17 years, raised my family here, and so it is a little emotional for me. But hey, I've got Luke Dunkin, Darien Craig, and Jason Duran going to be joining me today, so that's probably not the only reason I'm a little emotional. I'm probably a little on edge, not knowing what those guys are going to talk about, but they are going to be on. We're going to talk about registration. We're going to talk about early years of the Alabama Bass Trail, back when Luke Dunkin fished the Alabama Bass Trail, when Jason Duran fished the Alabama Bass Trail, and when Darien also fished the Alabama Bass Trail. We're going to talk to them about their time on that side of the Alabama Bass Trail and how it compares to actually being on the media side and covering it, and certainly covering a lot of the guys that they fish alongside of for a long time. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about the 2025 schedule as well, but we're also just going to kind of just talk in general about how their year has gone and how things have progressed over the last 11 years on the Alabama Bass Trail with the different faces and everything. So I'm really looking forward to it. Always glad to have those guys on. I think they've brought a lot of fun to the trail this year. The chemistry's been great out on the water. Both Darien and Luke have stood in as the MC this year. Luke, of course, being the main character there, but having to miss a couple events because of his duties with the NPFL. So, it is a different side of things when you are on this side of things as opposed to the angler, but there's a whole different set of anticipations and nervousness and all of that goes along with it than when you're sitting behind the steering wheel of your boat getting ready to blast off boat number one. So a lot of nerves on both sides of it. So we're going to talk about that and break that down a little bit for you. I think it's a really cool story from those guys' perspective. And the cool thing, I think, is all three of them have fished our trail, and they know what that side of it is. And now to be able to have, pretty much a full year under their belt to talk about it. I thought it was only fair that we bring Jason in. He's usually working at the Phoenix boat plant when we're recording podcasts, but he is going to be on with us this week. So I'm excited about that as well. We have had a few days of registration. I know I'm recording this on Monday, August the 5th. And it will not air until the 13th of August, but we are well ahead of where we were for the 2024 registration. Day one, we had 51. That was up 12. We had 39 in the year before for regular registration or priority registration, and we are still trending way ahead of where we were for the 2024 registration. So to give you numbers right now would probably not be fair, but we are somewhere in that 80 to 90 mark for registrations for this year. Now that's across both. I mean, we don't have 180, being 90 in each, but we're somewhere around that 90, 95 range, which is about 10 or 12 ahead of where we were in years past. So again, we don't typically get busy on registration until the 11th through the 14th. So I feel like if I just gave guys 5 days regular registration or priority registration, we would still do the same thing. They would wait until the 3rd and 4th and 5th day, but they usually do wait. 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th is going to be really busy. And of course, that's when I'm closing and moving on my house. So, I mean, why not have all of that going on at the same time? So, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. I will tell you, I am still drinking my water. I am still recovering, not so much from COVID. I feel great, but it just takes a little bit of time to get your energy back. Your hydration is just not the same. Honestly, the medicine that they had me on, everything tasted like metal. And so I did not do a very good job of staying hydrated. So I'm still catching up from that. So, but I did not get to talk about this last week when I was on with Angela, but I wanted to bring up the fact that I did have to leave the governor's conference early, but there was a huge awards banquet on Monday night. And I wanted to congratulate all of the winners from the tourism industry in Alabama for those awards. But the most probably special to me is my boss lady, Miss Tammy Reist, being honored and inducted to the Alabama Tourism Hall of Fame. Tammy's been in the industry for a whole bunch of years, not just the years that she's been with Alabama Mountain Lakes. But Tammy came on board I've been there 18 years. So Tammy came on board about, I guess, 5 years into my work with Alabama Mountain Lakes. And she's just a freaking star in the state of Alabama and in the Southeast. She's been recognized throughout the Southeast Tourism Society. She speaks on a national level a lot on behalf of tourism. She has worked on many projects throughout the entire state of Alabama, and she continues to be one of the not just Hall of Fame. I mean, she's an icon in this industry, and the things that she has done to move the state of Alabama forward in tourism has just been amazing. As a matter of fact, I was talking with her earlier today, and a stat that I just find really remarkable is in the state of Alabama in 2024, tourism expenditures crested $24 billion. That's billion dollars. And I'm looking at a statistic here right now. Of course, in 2020, we did see a decrease in tourism of about 20% because of COVID. People weren't traveling as much. But we've seen record numbers of growth. From 2021, we were up 47%. And then in 2022, we were up another 14%. 2023, we were up another 5%. And this year we were up another 2.5%. Steady growth, $24 billion. And when I look back at 2017, or no, let me go to 2018. 2018, we were $15.6 billion in expenditures for visitor spending in the state of Alabama, to just in 6 years being over $24 billion. That's incredible. And I know I'm not going to get into a full tourism talk because this traditionally is not a tourism podcast, but we live here cheaper because of the tourism dollars that are spent in our areas. I don't have that breakdown for the state of Alabama right now to give you, but I do want to have Tammy on just so you can hear some of the projects that she works on. Airbnb has been a huge project for her over the past 12 to 15 months, working on a statewide level to regulate the tax collections through Airbnbs. For a long time, they did not pay state lodgings tax, and that is how projects and things are funded, is through state lodging tax in the tourism industry. We are able to advertise more. We're able to do more shows. We're able to do more projects like the Alabama Bass Trail because of lodging tax that's collected and is turned over to the state of Alabama Tourism Department for the betterment of the state. So we do live here less expensive because of the tourism expenditures, the visitor spending inside the state of Alabama. Also, I cannot talk about the growth in tourism expenditures and tourism growth without mentioning Lee Centel, our state tourism director. Lee has been one of the best partners, if not the best partner, to the Alabama Bass Trail. Not a project he was very familiar with when it first started, but once we sat and talked to him and laid out our plan and showed him the results from what we do. And when you talk about in 10 years, just the economic impact that the Alabama Bass Trail Tournament Series has had, $92.5 million on the state of Alabama, just in the 10 years we've been working. That has nothing to do with the other tournaments that's taken place here. We know if ours is that much, then it's at least double with all the other tournaments that have been in the state of Alabama. So, a lot of times education, 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 and that's what we preach with our state legislature. That's what we preach with local delegations and local officials. And we see them finding and getting on board with that because you see developments like Leesburg Landing, you see developments like Lincoln Landing, you see improvements that's going to be taking place down at Cooter's Pond. There's a lot of things, whether it's working through Alabama Power, working through TVA, with the Mink Creek revitalization there at Lake Gunnersville, all of those partners that understand the benefit of tourism and fishing tourism. That's how these projects get done. So it could not start with unless you had a strong leader. Lee Centel has absolutely been one of the best state tourism directors in all of the country, not just the Southeast and not just in Alabama. He has certainly been the best. And when you take Lee and then you put someone like Tammy Reist, who leads an organization of 16 counties, it's just been an amazing 18 years in my life of having to work with getting to work with the state and with Alabama Mountain Lakes. It's been a real honor, and those two individuals deserve every bit of the recognition and honor that they receive on a national and global level. So congratulations to all the winners, but to especially my boss lady, who deserves all the plaques and recognition and honor that one can give. So it's been an honor working with her and for her over the past 12 to 13 years. So congratulations, Ms. Tammy. I love you dearly, not only as a boss, but as a dear friend. Really, really appreciate y'all. I don't want to get into too much of the tourism talk, but I do think that it is important to know that you have to have friends across industries. You see non-endemic sponsors all the time in the fishing industry. Probably need to see more of that in the fishing industry. But I look at that from the tourism perspective as well. And everything goes hand in hand. There's a lot has been said about the grass management up on Lake Gunnersville. There's you have your stakeholders, your local stakeholders, you have your tourism dollars. You have to manage all of that. I say that very similar to managing a resource, managing your local delegation, your local constituents, your tourism dollars, and all of that goes into a lot of what some of our elected officials have to manage on a daily basis, as well as all of the other laws and things that they have to deal with. So it does take a great partnership. And again, I don't want to get into all of that, but when you sit back and look at it from the outside looking in, there is a lot that goes on. So hopefully we'll get Miss Tammy on, maybe can get Mr. Centel on at some point and let you guys hear from them. He has been extremely generous with Camden and down in Wilcox County, helping Wilcox County get on board with the Alabama Bass Trail, as well as sustaining some of their efforts down there as well. I know he was a big contributor into the water tower painting that really does showcase the essence of Camden and Wilcox County with the hunting and the fishing and everything that goes on wildlife related in the Black Belt region. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Big Daddy and his service a little bit later. So, but right now I'm going to take a short break, but you don't want to go anywhere. Luke Dunkin, Darien Craig, Jason Duran are going to join me here on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. We're going to talk all things Alabama Bass Trail 2024, maybe a few years before that, and then also scoot on over to 2025 to see what they have to say about the schedule for then. So you guys stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Stay tuned.
Nobody wants to run out of power when they're on the water. There is a better way. Introducing the Charge Marine Power Management Station from PowerPole that does the work of 3 devices: a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system. PowerPole Charge.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And I warned you, I'm not going to say here they are. I'm going to say I warned you. And I don't have a bleep button. So I hope Ben, when he gets ready to edit this, will have a bleep button ready to go. But here you have it, Luke Dunkin, Darien Craig, and Jason Duran. I do have a question, Luke. The guys that you tour with, that you play
that
music.
that was just very pointed right in there. I don't like
there.
that, but continue. I'm scared.
Okay, so the guys you travel with and play music with and sing with, you call them the Fat Rascals. What is this group? If you can you say
Listen,
online?
this is the shady rascals. Like if those are the fat rascals, those are the shady rascals right here. But by the way, just real quick sidebar, the band that I play with, which includes our beloved tournament director John Simpson, they hate being called the fat rascals. Just in case you're wondering, like hate everything about it. So
Well, I thought they changed the name to the Dunkaroos.
yes, that was a Shannon Wheeler who also helps us with ABT. Yeah, he said it's the Dunkaroos now. Luke Dunkin of the Dunkaroos. They're Fat Rascals, one tour, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, but it was a very successful tour anyway.
It was a successful tour, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with a name for this group. But I did think I put you on the spot for that. So I do want to say I did when I opened the segment, I did talk about how each one of you have fished the Alabama Bass Trail. And Darien, yes, one of you have won an Alabama Bass Trail tournament. So
1 of 3. I've got my show. I have to go to the chiropractor after every event for carrying this team on my back with at least one of us having a championship. So there you go, having a trophy. But the chiropractor is affordable, so I can get that thing covered by Monday midday, and we should be good. So, but thank you for the welcome.
Well,
man, I missed you guys.
I bet you have really missed this group of love that we've had here. So, let's talk about early days. I know, Luke, you were on the first year of the Alabama Bass Trail back in 2014, one of the coldest events. I'm still not sure it was colder than Logan Martin this past year, but one of the colder tournaments we did, first tournament at Lake Guntersville, 200 boats taken off. I talked last week about just not knowing, like just oblivion to the things that could have gone wrong with that tournament as far as like icing on the ramp and things like that. Now I prepare months in advance for that kind of stuff. But you signed up. We sold out 72 days for the North Division that year. 72 days is what it took us to fill up. Do you remember? I know it's been a while, but do you remember that? Like when we came out with the trail and thoughts about it?
Yeah, I do. I just remember the excitement around it, in the state of Alabama. And of course, I was working at TH then, and they were a part of it, and they were very excited. I fished with my buddy Greg Bowie that year from TH too. And I remember just the overall, the vibe was very good until we got on the water and there was ice. And then it was like, and we knew, I think it set a precedent. Obviously, the weight record was established then by Jerry Wright and Brandon Staggs, like that these guys are going to smash them all the time. And I think it just immediately you took notice that it was that trail, that it was going to be just one of these. If it kept going, it was going to be one for the ages, and it is. And it's crazy to be on this side of it now, though, to think back on being at that first tournament, because really none of us knew what we were getting into, but there was certainly an energy like, all right, this is special.
Jason, what year did you start fishing the trail?
I was trying to just sit here and think. It's been probably about 5 or 6 years ago. My dad and I fished, I think, 3 or 4 years. My brother fished with another guy, and he ended up fishing with his son for a couple of years too. So we cashed a check. I know at least we did that one time. Darien, I don't know if Luke, I'm sure you probably cashed many checks, but I did cash a check at least one of those deals. So we got our butt kicked a lot. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. So
guaranteed check at the end of the tournament?
Every time.
Darien, how many years did you fish with us?
I fished 2 years with Houston and 1 year with Trey Swindle.
Let's talk about that year in particular. Can we talk about that? Did y'all ever finish a tournament? Like make it to weigh-in?
I know that. Here's the deal. We fish Neely Henry, and typically I'll read through some of the rules typically, and I knew there's a rule that has something to do with you can't leave the boat for some. I just don't know what the exact rule is. However, I went in with this that I'm going to go order Buffalo Wild Wings, go run up there. I went up there and grabbed it, but I convinced Trey that it was legal, but I knew that if we got in trouble for that one, I could possibly talk myself out of it because I was just getting food. So then they're going to polygraph me and like, you were cheating. And I'm like, bro, I was just getting food. Like,
They were never polygraphing, dude.
are you going to DQ me for getting Buffalo Wild Wings? And it ends up it wasn't illegal. So it's available to everybody in the tournament. So it's not illegal. I didn't break any rules. But yeah, that's where we are now.
Well, we lost Jason. Maybe he'll come back in here in a minute. No, you can't leave your boat to land a fish, and all fishing must cease when someone's out of the boat. So in that case, you are legal. So you would not have been DQ'd for that particular situation. So
to this day, one of my favorite Instagram stories
Ever.
was that event. Like that was one to keep up with because they're hot, it's miserable, they can't get a bite, and then all of a sudden they're parked right there in Gaston going to get Buffalo Wild Wings. And I'm like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Why are they doing this?
well, I talked to Angela about this last week on the podcast. We have people who are so dead serious about this, like they want to cut your throat when they get on the water. And y'all were kind of that way. I mean, y'all are pretty serious about, your tournament fishing and all that. But we have some guys that have told me before, hey, I know you went up on entry fees. You could go up to this and we would still come and show up because we love having our 5 weekends with our buddies, that we just hang out by the fire or we just, sit and grill out or whatever. And it's just 5 good weekends that you can hang out with your buddies. And by the way, you get to go fishing too. So you have both ends of that spectrum on the Alabama Bass Trail. I know when I started, I had zero, and I talk about big O zero idea of what I was getting myself into, or really even, I think back now and just the oblivion that I lived in for the first 24 to 36 months of this thing was kind of crazy. Going from 72 days, I think year one, filling up in the north and never filling up in the south until 2017. It still took about 30, 45 days for us to fill up, to getting to the point now to where you fill up in less than 20 minutes. I remember in 2020, it was the first time that ever happened. And we were in the middle of a global pandemic. And we filled up in 39 hours for the ABT 100, opened on June 1st. And then we filled up in 22 minutes for the Alabama Bass Trail. Could you ever imagine that?
So crazy. I think the guy whoever it was that mentioned that about the entry fees is right. Like once there's something that's so good, it's not just the event, it's the energy around the event. Driving to Neely Henry, whatever that exit is, Steel, that everyone stays off of, where all the hotels, you got the Mexican restaurant and the gas station. That energy when you get off that exit and you can already see 20 or 30 boats over there, and a couple of guys are already starting to break into a cooler. It's Friday evening. We're meeting up for dinner in like an hour, so you get to hit a couple cold pops if you want to. Like that energy is equal to the tournament. Not equal to, it's less than the tournament, but like when you put all of that together, that's just like that fun of it. But I could see why it would sell out that quick after seeing that. Like it's addictive. That part to me is the most addictive part of the whole thing.
The energy that our team brings, when you look at John and Daniel and Mark and Frank and those guys that get there at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the energy that they bring, I almost feel guilty if I can't match that, because they have kind of the kind of job. Like they've got to manage parking and they got to manage personalities at that time in the morning, can be off the charts both ways. So I feel almost guilty if I don't bring that energy to my morning time routine and to what we do too, because they just do so much there. You talk about the energy from the angler's perspective. When you pull in on Wednesday and the parking lots are full, because I'm fortunate enough, I get to go ahead of time and do that and see that. And when you pull up on Wednesday and it's like that, and then on Thursday morning and you got, let's take Neely Henry. There's like 5 boat ramps those guys use between Canoe Creek and Coosa Landing and the Highway 77 bridge and the new Southside Landing. And you go and there's boats and trucks everywhere. Like, it's just unbelievable. I don't think I ever imagined it being that.
Crazy. There's a lot of dedication now. That carries over to me and Luke talk about this a bunch, and Jason talking about how like the rigs that these guys have, they're spending so much money on a truck, so much money on a boat. They wouldn't be putting that much money and their life into it if they didn't care about it that much.
Well, and it's almost, it doesn't even, when we're talking about selling out and the schedule coming out and all that, like, I don't even think it matters what the schedule is at this point. Honestly, like, guys are like, hey, what are you doing in 2025? I don't want to fish the Bass Trail. And then everything else. I've heard you say that a lot, Kay. Like, they wait until your schedule comes out to see what else they're going to fill in their fishing schedule with, their fishing calendar. So I think it is that, you know, you're going to see the same crew, you know, you're going to hang with your group that you travel with, you're going to rent the same houses or hotels, and it just becomes this way of life. And if you're not from our area, and I know it's the same in Texas with big tournament trails, but I do feel like if you're not from our area, you might not get it. You know, does that make sense? Like, because there aren't a lot of tournament trails like this anywhere else in the country. Everything else is kind of scattered out, but this is such a core group of teams that I feel like are going to do it regardless. They might not if you fish Wheeler 5 times, I guess, but in a row or something. But regardless of schedule, they're going to show up, in my opinion.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's interesting, because I know when we started looking at the trail, one of the biggest trails consistently was the BFL Choo Choo division. And then you started looking at, they went to Guntersville 5 times. And to me, that's cool if you want to go to Guntersville 5 times. A lot of people want to go to Guntersville. I get that. But I think what makes this trail so special is how you have had to visit different areas and introduce yourself to different lakes. And that's always one of the most fun things that I see when we ask people, is this your first time to ever fish this lake? Or if you get out on the water and you interview them and they're like, man, we've never been here before. We got here 2 days ago and we've been just trying to dissect the lake. You know, because that's really what we were started to do, was create tourism in the state of Alabama. And that's a unique thing when you see people from Georgia, Mississippi, Illinois, Kentucky. Gosh, this year we got people from Wisconsin and Minnesota that are going to be coming down fishing the 100. So that's always interesting to me. I never thought that would happen, ever. 2 things I never thought would happen. 1, that we'd sell out in minutes, and 2, that we'd have people from 17 states that participate with us.
That's crazy.
You know, Kay, when I signed up for the first time, it really wasn't a question of where are we going to get in. You know, it was, hey, Dad, you want to fish? Yeah, let's fish. And it was like, oh, registration opens on this day. Okay, I'll get over there sometime that afternoon and get signed in. Now you got teams that are literally strategizing. Hey, you think she'll turn it on 5 minutes early? You think she'll turn it on 10 minutes early? And they're just strategizing to, you know, what do we got to do to get in to beat everybody else? You know, and every time it fills up so fast now that guys are really, you know, kind of bummed when they don't make it. And I get the Facebook messages. So you see about midway throughout the year, guys are already messaging, hey, y'all had a great tournament this weekend. When is sign up? Or, hey, can I get on the waiting list? You know, there's a misunderstanding sometimes really about the waiting list. It doesn't get you into next year. It just makes the list longer for this year. You take the first 5 teams, 10 teams, or whatever it is, every time that, you know, guys that back out. But there are guys in the middle of the year going, hey, can I get on the waiting list? That's just how crazy it is to think about just how big a following it really has created, not only in the state of Alabama, but, you know, in the Southeast and now half the Northeast too. So it's pretty cool.
We have 94 on the waiting list for the North, 84 on the waiting list for the South for the 2024 season. And y'all, that's something I never thought we would even see. Like, I didn't even have a waiting list button on the registration software that we had before. We didn't really have a waiting list. We didn't have the opportunity to do that. And I remember when we built our system, and even the concept of having a waiting list was just so far out of my mind. And we used to register at midnight. If you remember that, we opened up at like midnight. And the only reason we changed it to the morning time was because a guy told me, he goes, you realize I live in South Carolina. I'm having to wait till 1 a.m. to register. And so it got me thinking that, hey, that's not very convenient for everybody. Luke, I wanted to mention something you said about how I always talk about, I hope they choose to fish Alabama Bass Trail first and then to fill in their other schedule, because we have a lot of teams that fish both sides, North and South, and even the 100s. I was actually looking the other day, we have 3 people that fish our trail that fished over 100 tournaments with us. And then we have 4 more that are really close. If the 2025 season puts them over, I think, that 100 mark. And we're going to recognize them, I think, at the championship this year, and kind of, I think that's a big thing if you fished over 100 tournaments with us, and we've been in business 11 years. So, but I do hope that, and I can remember back when we first started, okay, this is our schedule. Whatever you do is whatever you do. But now the whole idea of working with Sylacauga Marine Trail, Airport Marine Trail, trying to think of something, BFL, they reach out to us usually around the first part of April, wanting to know if we've got our schedule ready, and sharing that so that we can all coexist and not have to fight for those anglers, because we know anglers want to fish all the time anyway. So I think that's been one thing that has really changed from my perspective, is knowing that the respect that they have for our trail and asking for our schedule ahead of time so that they can plan around it has been a huge compliment to what our staff has done too. So going from the fishing side to the media side, Jason, talk about that. I mean, from fishing it, I mean, has it helped you in being able to cover the trail and all of that? I mean, how does that affect you from going from the fishing it to actually being on the media side of things?
I know when you first asked me, I started writing for the trail eventually, in the very beginning, and just kind of was like, hey, this is a great opportunity just to kind of get to know. I've done some writing on this, done some coverage on this. Then just the opportunity just to be a camera boat driver in the very beginning, when we first started this thing way back at the championship, that time of just kind of driving around and just holding up a phone, filming around. It was like, this is the craziest thing. And you got guys like, hey, I wish you had a better microphone. I wish you had a better camera. And we're like, well, we're doing this off a stinking iPhone. So just be glad we're bringing it to you. And now to go to, we've got 3 cameras on the water. We've got tracking. We can see them all where they are. It rains a lot, and we have to deal with a lot of crazy weather all the time. But just transitioning through that and watching it grow year after year after year, it's been fun to watch. And having fished it, I understand the pressure that these guys feel first thing in the morning. They prepared all week, and they're really just, going to drop the hammer. I'll say it, put that Phoenix bird in the wind and just see what it's going to do to get us to that spot. And we prepared. And just, are the fish going to play today? Are we going to be able to do what we normally are able to do on this spot? And so it's been fun to chase them now. I still get that adrenaline first thing in the morning. It's even better now that we really get to do a chase boat every tournament. So I don't feel like I'm missing blast off, because that's a big thing, to me in the tournament industry, is that blast off moment. And I just getting to run down the lake and have a really good time with these guys, and being able to drop the hammer. And my goal is to always do as fast as I can to get a fish catch, and try to beat these other two to the spot. And if I can get a fish catch, and then if we can get a limit, that's the goal. So
I'm glad to finally know this is a challenge. I'm glad that we're finally know that this is a real competition. I've been keeping it cool this whole time, bro. This whole year. I didn't realize we're out here secretly keeping score.
Oh,
there's been some times I hope Jason gets first.
Hey, how about I'm not even in the competition, because I'm up there boat 197, Ricky and Tommy, while y'all are chasing boats around. So that's not even fair to say, Jason.
Yeah.
I strongly
really
feel like
good.
that Luke is pushing me to figure out a new way to announce boat numbers so he can get his tail out on the water.
But understand that next year I'm going to be like, boat number 1, boat number 2, boat number 3,
boat number 3,
4, and I'm going to call them I'm going to call them from the first angler I'm covering. I'm going to go with boat number 1, and y'all just going to hear me call them boat numbers.
Just keep calling and driving.
I didn't know it was a competition, but now I do.
Yeah.
I want to add one thing that I think is really cool, and I know Jason got to cover this year Anthony Goggins and CJ Knight. I think one of the coolest, you covered them a bunch this year. I think one of the coolest things that I see is covering the same team multiple times throughout the year, because you kind of get like an attachment to them a little bit of like really hoping they win. And I know a lot of the ABT guys watch the show. Obviously, we're pulling for everybody, but like at the end of the day, you're going to end up with a favorite because you get to see this guy more, right? And so I think it was cool. Like Jason this year covered CJ and Anthony at every single event, I think. and like you just get to where you pull for those guys. I think that was really cool to kind of build. And like also, you know, some guys do better on camera as far as like wanting to talk about what's going on or show what's going on. So that makes it easier for us. And some people like no hard feelings from us, but some people just don't want to do that. And then they still catch them and could win the tournament too. So like there's no hard feelings about people who don't want to do it, but you know, we appreciate the ones that do.
There's a weird attachment though, even if it's somebody you don't know. When you pull up on somebody, they're catching them, and you're watching their interaction. Like you immediately start like pulling
Yeah.
them. Like if you could have
Yeah.
a T-shirt with their names on it, you'd be wearing
Yeah,
it.
$1,000,000%.
You're like, dude, what are they going to weigh? You're going back and forth. So you do have, and it's the same way when I do MPFLs. Like when we're commentating these 5 guys that we're covering, you're like, man, you're pulling for them because you see what they go through during the day. But it's definitely like that in ABT. And we do end up, I feel like the trackers especially go to the same teams a lot because they're so consistent on all these bodies of water. So we do end up covering the same guys for all 5 tournaments in each division.
You know, when you look at,
we do that.
Sorry,
We do that
I just
pregame
wanted to point
meeting
out.
go ahead, Luke.
Now, Jason, I had to say that I covered Anthony Goggins at Eufaula. Dang it. Now, continued. I had to get that in there since the
Well, I was just about to say, you know, on I peel the curtain back just a little bit to let everybody know. We have a Thursday night meeting where the whole team kind of comes together and we get to say, you know, hey, here's what we've heard from anglers this week. And we kind of make those decisions of who we're going to chase and who we're going to be after that day. And, you know, my goal on that day is to let you guys kind of show your cards a little bit and then go, all right, I know from having history with these guys for year after year, you know, I'll be able to like, okay, you know, y'all go chase those guys and burn all the gas you want to burn because we're going to catch them right here at the ramp today. And we did that 2 times this year.
This year, Jason, we get on a call and Kay says, we got such and such and who wants to cover them? And they were a good team, popular team. I was like, I definitely want to cover them. Jason starts laughing.
Jumped in quick.
Kay says, yeah, I talked to them. They're running all the way up to the Wasasapi River. And I'm like, what? Jason's like, yeah, I did it. Jason said, yeah, I did it last year. I just wanted to let one of y'all do it this time, so I didn't say anything. I'm like, bro, you got the fastest boat, and I'm like, bro, chill.
He just threw you straight to the
sometimes
wolves.
just save a little gas.
Yeah.
Dude, meetings are going to be a lot different next year now. I'm just going to be honest. We're all just going to sit here like this.
Nobody's going to volunteer for squat. Nobody's going to.
No, you have to assign it now.
I'm going to have to assign people to go different places. So, but I do think that those meetings, I think a lot of people think we just show up and just throw darts and stuff. But I think the meetings are important to talk about what's going on. You talk about following CJ and Anthony and watching that team. You know, I know, Luke, you got to follow Josh Chappell, Paul Davis a good bit this year, kind of feel that team out and kind of what their chemistry is. Darien got to go with Fisher and Ryan at Lake Guntersville. When you see that, but going back to Weiss Lake, when you covered Scott Canterbury, Terry Stevens, and you see them lose that fish, dude, like that's polar opposite of what you got to see with Fisher and Ryan and how everything just played out in their favor.
I was really scared I was going to get broken in half. Like, I feel like if I would have been close enough to him, he would have hit me with a rod. Like, yeah, that tournament, and like when you see the pros, obviously in the 100s, and when you see a pro, like it's definitely want to go cover them. So and Canterbury's a local Coosa River guy. I pull up on him. For the people who don't know, I pull up on Canterbury, pumped to go talk to him again because I'd already covered him that morning. And like, man, Canterbury, how's it going, man? I'm smiling. He says, it just broke off a 6-pounder in the grass over there, and it flipped over another one. I was like, Luke said, ask him if he's using bait fuel. I'm like, bro, I ain't asking Canterbury if he's using bait fuel right now. I'm not asking Canterbury nothing. So then I'm like, I slowly like just start. I just back up. Well, all right, we can take it over to you, Luke.
Well, and that's the conversation everybody doesn't hear. That's going on in our ear too. Yes, I'm spitting you guys some facts, but the amount of bull crap that's going on in your ear while you just got like hosed because Canterbury just broke off a 6-pounder. But I was also I was previewing the Weiss Lake show the other day, and I saw Luke, you were covering Amanda and Buck, and the way he was dialed on the front of that boat and had that He had about a 5-pounder come off as well. You go from high to low so fast out there, a lot like the anglers do.
Oh yeah, you ride the roller coaster with them when you're out there. That's for sure. And on the weigh-in stage, I've said that this year, like the near misses. For me, and I know Terry Tucker's, our buddy, he's going through it. But like Terry at Logan Martin this year, we were pumped for Chapel and Davis, but standing there and feeling that emotion because Terry and Jeremy, they thought they had won. Like you could see it on their face. It was the same at Smith for Wiggins and JQ. Same deal. It's like devastating. Just immediately deflated when they come up there. They thought they had it. So you see it on the water and you see it on the weigh-in stage. That's for sure. We ride it all with them.
Thinking back over the year, we've talked about some of the heartbreaking moments that we saw. Talk about. Luke. We'll let you start. What was one of your favorite moments, whether it be on the water, on the stage, other than weighing in Little Dicky and Little Daisy?
Yeah, well, there's not another moment that will ever top that in my whole life. Even the birth of my children, getting to weigh in a wiener dog. Are you kidding me?
That weighed 16 pounds.
A 16-pound wiener dog. I mean, it was Mountain Dew Big Dotson of the year. Nobody will ever top it. Shout out Little Dicky if he's watching. We miss you, dog. Come back around next year, man. We're gonna kick things off at Lake Martin, buddy. Come on down. So I think for me, other than that, which was again. Great. Ben, put that clip in here, right here. Ben, clip it right here for the folks at home. For me, it was, and I'll try not to, because I got choked up during this tournament. I grew up fishing with my dad so much, kind of like Darien with his granddad, Jason talking about his dad, and now I have boys of my own. Fisher and Ryan winning together, but seeing Ryan, how proud, the emotion of that whole day, they weighed in early. But I got to have this candid moment and unintentionally, to be honest, but they were over, we were finishing weigh-in and Fisher was truly, it was after the win and he was sobbing. Like he was off to the side and he was just like, and his mom and dad were consoling him and his girlfriend. And he was just so, it was like all of that came out. You know what I mean? Like he's a young man. He's not been after it for a long time, but you could just see what that meant to him in his journey of what he wants to do in life. That was probably for me, the most special moment of the year that nobody saw. Just off to the side of the stage, I was walking the truck. And that happened, and it just makes you smile and realize why we all do this, why this sport is so special. Because there's a lot of negativity in it, a lot of times, especially around young anglers right now. And I'm just like, man, I would never take anything away from that kid. Like that was amazing to see. And after sitting in the heat for so long too, they had a fish care deal. Like the whole thing was emotional for them, and it was just cool to see because we all know those guys. We know them on and off the water, and Ryan chased it for a very long time, and now I get to see his kid succeed. So long answer, but that was the moment for sure.
I'll follow up off that too. That same day you're talking about, I got to cover Ryan and Fisher, and to see them casting together and fishing, and then all of a sudden I look down, my old ABT trophy floating down the river from when I won at Gunnersville. I sit here, find my plaque floated right down to the boat. Same thing. That's my best part of the whole year.
And it's crazy to me that anybody would have their own trophy made. I can't believe that would happen, but it does sometimes. Y'all sweet tea money, you can't hide it.
No, I think the coolest part of last year, and I'll never forget this one, but I think when you pull up on a team, we all three had it happen multiple times this year, but we get on a team that's actually catching them and ends up winning the tournament or top three. I don't remember. I think these guys finished second. I actually don't remember their names. I'm pretty bad with names. But at Jordan, the team that we pulled up on at the very end, or actually it wasn't at the very end, but they were catching every single fish on a 6XD, or actually on a DT20, and ledge fishing clinic, and we were literally boat to boat with them down at the dam, and they were catching them every single cast. I think they ended up finishing second, possibly.
Lucas Lindsay.
But Lucas Lindsay, I believe. It was Lucas Lindsay.
And Brendan Holt.
Yep. And it was a really, really good, they straight up put on a clinic. They were so professional. I mean, you would have thought they were pro anglers the way they were just like talking to the camera, talking to each other, laughing at us, involving. I mean, it was just the most fun energy. And to see them also do really well was really cool. So I just think it's neat when we get to cover a guy that ends up with, top 3. That's really cool.
You also got to cover the Millers.
Yep.
You got to be with Connor and Caleb Miller. One of the first tournaments that they fished with us at Lake Martin. I mean, it was the second tournament of the year, but you got to film them.
That was a really cool one.
Like 15 and 17 years old at the time, 16, 18 years old now. How cool was it to see those guys come through the entire year and finish 12th in the Angler of the Year points?
Yeah, and that tournament specifically, they were doing something that I bet not a ton of people do, because I'm going to say it's a youth thing, but like it takes a lot of coordination and also like up and down, which older guys typically would just put a rod in their hand and fish. But they're looking at the graph, both of them with one with a forward facing bait in his hand, the other with like a big spinnerbait or something, staring at the graph, but the entire time casting down the bank. And he's hitting real targets, like really good hitting the targets, because he knows that like with a spinnerbait, if he gets a bite, he can just catch it. He doesn't have to really look, but he's watching the live the whole time. And the second that they would see a fish, the other one would already pitch in. He would burn his bait in, pick up a forward facing bait, and then go chase that fish. Watching that in real time in a tournament, and like it was really cool to watch that. And then to see them do that throughout the entire year, like it's very, very clear those boys are going to be. They're awesome. Like their parents are always there. Their parents are cool, and the kids obviously have a gift of fishing and understanding how fish operate, and that's a big deal.
Jason, what about you? What was there a certain time of the year, a certain element of the year that stands out in your mind?
Well, this will probably take a little different slant, but I think the very first tournament this year for me was it. It was 9 degrees, 8 degrees. I forgot the exact temperature of what it was. But, we kind of gone through a couple changes in the last couple of years here. We've changed a lot of things from the live perspective. And, okay, Luke and Darien, I'm going to be nice to you guys for a second here, okay?
I just lost you.
Mm.
See, that's what happens when you're trying to be nice.
I was going to say his
service.
His service won't even allow him to be nice to us because he's not nice all the time to us. His AT&T or whoever is like, no, you can't compliment those guys.
Maybe he'll come back to us here in just a minute.
I think he's got cricket.
Boost Mobile.
All the pressure.
We're gonna.
Here we go. And shoot.
Hey,
we lost you for like 6
we lost
minutes.
you for like what seemed like a minute and a half.
I'm in freaking Fremont. I should be good now, though. That's why I stopped earlier, because I was like, I know I'm gonna lose it.
Okay, you were just about to give us a
We're
compliment.
gonna need you to say something nice, because we didn't hear any of it.
I can back it up. I can start over. I can
back it up.
I can start right from the top. Now, ruin y'all's expression now, though, at least. So, all right. So for me, it kind of goes back to that very first tournament of the year. Yeah, it was 8 degrees, 9 degrees. I don't even really remember the temperature. I just remember it was cold, cold, cold. And, water was freezing on the deck. Water was not freezing on the ramp because we took care of it. But really, just to go back to year after year, especially in the last couple of years, a lot of changes have happened from the live perspective, especially. And the faces have changed. The personalities have changed. Luke and Darien, I'll give you guys a little bit of praise and not come at you sideways here for a second. But, I'm stepping at the ramp and just kind of thinking in my moment there, we got the 2 craziest guys I know in bass fishing about to step up here. And is this even going to work today? Was really my question. Is this going to work? I know the history. I know what we try to do. I know what we're trying to accomplish today. Haven't been there from when it very, very beginning. And then to step there and to watch that day go off, just like so easy. It was so easy. And I was really just like, okay, this is going to work. And then just to watch it progress all year long has been just a big deal for me, just to know that, we got a really solid team from the top to the bottom. I mean, I'm probably at the bottom, but the top to the bottom, we've got a really solid team, and we can go out and cover guys. To me, the best bass fishing teams in the industry, we get to go cover them week after week and give the American public, around the world public, I would say, an opportunity just to kind of see how just the average guy prepares to go fishing. And for me, that's been the deal the whole year. Standing at that first tournament when all the pressure was there, the weather didn't help at all. And then to going all the way to Guntersville and just having a fantastic year this year has just been it all for me. You know, because I was like, I don't know if I really need to continue to do this. You know, so it really sealed the deal for me.
Well, let me tell you something. Nothing hurts your feelings worse than 2 days before your championship, your tournament director resigns. And then 2 weeks after that, your live stream person resigns and you feel like you're just sitting here. Can you do this again? Can you rebuild another team? Can you go forward? Or is it time to hand the torch to someone else? Because literally 2022, that's where I was, or 2023, that's kind of where I was. But John and Daniel have come on and done a fantastic job in that respect. Hiring the great people there at Broadway Media at WOTM was the right move for us. I didn't know how to do it, but we figured it out. They've been a huge blessing. And then just putting the talent that has chemistry out on the water like you guys do, has been really, really good. You get people behind the scenes like a Kenny Curnow, who's just, worth his weight in gold. It just kind of all meshes. And I'm like you, one of my comments that I have on my paper, on my notes, I think the year has gone, the content has gotten so much better and so much smoother. But I think a lot of that is, like you guys said, I don't think there could have been any more pressure than in January with the weather conditions and the griping and grumbling and bull crap that came out, from all sorts of areas about that event going forward and everything. The temperature, the weather, all new people, everything new. I think it couldn't have gone any better than it did, actually. But then it's just gotten so much better. A lot of that's following the stories throughout the year. You guys getting to know each other better throughout the year, knowing the teams better throughout the year, and the process is better. I think that's just, I'm like you, I think it's just gotten so much better. And I think with the addition of Angela and some of the stuff she's going to put in place is going to continue to make that better and better and better and better. So I do appreciate you noticing that, Jason, because there was a ton of pressure on you guys as it kind of being y'all's first event, on my shoulders for making the call to move forward with that event. So yeah, I appreciate you.
I'll be honest, Jason, I appreciate that very much that you said that, because that first event, Darien and I roomed together there, and I don't think we ever even talked about the pressure. But I did feel this immense pressure because, coming in and filling Robbie's shoes was not something I ever took lightly. I've talked about that on the show a lot. I'm a huge Robbie fan from day one. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that the ABT had Robbie Floyd. So to get in those shoes was intimidating. But then to have to go, I'll never forget, like pulling out of the driveway and telling Marissa, like, I got to go try to be the best I can be. It's going to be
in the worst
degrees.
conditions ever.
Like, I got to go try to be this big personality. Like, I don't know. I mean, can we start over at the next tournament? Because I don't want to be judged off of this one. I was so nervous that morning, just calling boat numbers. I'm like, I got to try to be entertaining and not freeze to death on this pontoon boat.
I will say this just to take it right here. First fish catch of 2024 was me. It was within the first 30 seconds of live. And I thought all day, we're not going to see a fish catch ever today.
Yeah.
I pulled up on that team and bam, got one. I was like, okay, won this one, move on.
And the crazy thing, Jason, about that fish catch, those are two guys, Terry McCormick, Troy Simbeck, from my hometown that I fished a bass club with starting when I was like 12 years old. So it was so weird to hear those names. I'm out on the boat, you're like Terry McCormick, Troy Simbeck. It was kind of serendipitous.
The only reason I stopped on them was because we were freaking freezing to death. And I'm like, there's the boat, go, get on them. And I was like, okay, here we go. So yeah. It was really cool.
Well, it has certainly been a pleasure working with y'all all year and seeing, like I said, what you guys bring individually to the live and to whether it be social with Jason posting during tournaments and Darien doing offstage interviews. the TV show is much better. I think we're growing a better TV show with the live and with all of that combined. So I think it's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing what we have planned for the championship, which is up next. But I want to talk a little bit about the 2025 schedule and get your comments on that, because that is what people are registering for right now. And we are way ahead. We're trending ahead of numbers for 2024 from last year, some 12 to 15 more per day than we had last year going into registration. So that's good. Kicking off the season at Lewis Smith Lake. Let's just talk about North Division. Lewis Smith Lake, February the 8th. I think that's going to be a fun one. I see that. Thank you, Luke. I see that.
Fingers crossed on the weather.
Last time we were there 2 years ago, I had ice on my truck when we pulled up to the ramp because I drove from Tennessee that morning. Kay called me and said, "Hey, how's the driving through Huntsville?" And I was like, "The snowplows aren't even out yet, and I'm just holding all I can to get there." So it's gonna be great though.
And that was in March.
It's gonna be 50 degrees that day. Yeah,
that was March.
50 degrees in February.
It was 68 on Friday. 68 on Friday. Yeah. People were fishing, and of course, their wife beater shirts and shorts. And then Saturday morning we get up. I get up at about 1:15 to go to the little girl's room, and I said, let's see if the rain's turned over to snow yet. Yeah, I had this much snow on my truck. I thought, I better get down that mountain. So, but Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, they pulled it off after texting me about 3,000 times as how I needed to cancel that tournament because of the wind and the conditions. They come in with over 15 pounds and win. And I guarantee you they were cussing me on the way out. And they said I was cussing them, having to hand them that big fat check standing on stage because they had absolutely blown my phone up. I think that could be a 22 plus pound day at Smith Lake in February. I think it could be a real fun tournament. And there's a lot of teams that you can watch at that one. Next up, March 15th, Lake Gunnersville. I got to think Josh Butt, Stephen McAvoy are like just salivating over that tournament.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Call them now. I'm going to follow them that day. I'm going to go ahead and call them now. So you're not, just go ahead and call them. I know where we're going. We're not going very far, so go ahead and call that.
Well, you've got Donnie Beck and Steve Harvey too. I mean, Tony Harvey too. Let's just say that's another group that can bring in a good solid sack in March, probably doing similar tactics, but in a little bit different area of the lake. So I think those guys would be somebody I'd watch as well.
Will it take 20 pounds just to get a check in that one?
Very possible. So. I think it was March 28th is when we had our tournament there that it took 38 bags over 20 pounds. We were going into the Bassmaster Classic. I think it was 2018. Going into the Bassmaster Classic, I rode up to Greenville, South Carolina that year, and Kevin Van Dam stopped me and said, "Did I hear correctly? You had 38 bags over 20 pounds? And I said, "Yes, you did hear correctly." So I think that is one of those tournaments. Neely Henry, April 19th. The last time we were there in April, we had a 22-pound bag weighed in with an 829. The Seaborns won that tournament. That's a good lake in April. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that one will be fun. Depending on water level, right? That tends to be the Neely Henry the biggest factor there, but I think that'll be full-blown spawn and a lot of fun to be had.
That's got Tracy Robinson's name written on it.
You know,
yeah.
The fact he has not won a tournament on Neely Henry, insane to me, as well as Mark McKeag, Tim Hurst.
Yep.
How many tournaments have they won there and they haven't won an ABT there is just shocking to me. Now, granted, we have 225 boats. Some of the other tournaments have 60. So you got to take that into play too.
Well, I think part of it, they don't want to give up their juice on some of those tournaments too. You know, they're going to save it for those other events too. So, they know we're going to roll up on them and give away their good spot. So I get it. It happens.
May 10th, Weiss Lake.
Shad spawn. Frog and swim jigging.
I think we have shed spawn on a couple of events. We're going to talk about the South in a minute, but I think those third and fourth tournaments at that South division is going to be shad spawn related as well. June the 14th, Pickwick Lake. Are we going to be a mayfly hatch there?
Could be. Going to
be a ledge deal for sure.
If you fish the mayfly hatch, you're going to finish about 14th.
I was gonna say if if you're looking for a mayfly hatch, you just go ahead and just don't even pay your money and fish. That one. Unless I mean you can go have a good day. I mean that's fine, but
Well,
Pickwick,
well,
Pickwick, the talk's been that it's over with and there's not as many fish. And then in February this year, we proved that to not be true, obviously. And then just recently, the NPFL was there in July and it was insane. So that one will be. Our anglers are adjusting to this new Pickwick. The fish are still there. I think that they don't set up in those typical places, and that one will be a slugfest for sure.
Darien, were you going to say something about Pickwick?
I was just imitating a pop R around some mayflies. Me and Trey Swindle would finish about 97th and have 2 good topwater bites that day. But
I actually did come on y'all that day, by the way. I remember coming up on y'all.
Yep.
We need to go back to archives to that one. Let's play that one back right here.
I'll have to get Kenny to do some digging on that, see if he can find it. All right, let's talk about South Division. You guys, first year covering the South. You've been on some of those lakes before, but first year actually covering the South, starting off at Lake Martin. I mean, Darien, you did the weigh-in there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. 221 limits out of 225 boats. Insane.
Madness.
Longest weigh-in ever. Longest weigh-in ever. Everyone's going to weigh in. It's first tournament of the year. Got to have those points.
Yes.
Probably we'll have 220 limits.
Did I do weigh-in?
Yeah, I wasn't. I missed Martin and I missed the Josh Butts tournament.
No, did Robbie do the weigh-in?
Robbie.
Oh, Robbie did weigh-in. That's right. Because you and him had a bet.
I can remember talking to people off the stage of that tournament. Yeah. There was just so many people. Yeah, that was the tournament we had the bet.
Yeah, of how many limits we have.
Yeah, the crazy thing that I found out about that lake after talking to everyone was the abundance of keepers. They were talking about how I don't remember the name of the creek that we put in at, but they said you could basically go out to the point, the very first point you find. I guess there's one on the right and one a little bit down the left. And every single team, well, obviously found the same schools because they're just right there, but they said there were hundreds of fish in these schools. And if you made 5 casts, you would have 5 keepers. And every single person said the same thing. And they would also talk about how those were just all over the lake. Like at any point you pull up on, there would be 100 fish schools. They're all the exact same 12-inch spots, and they're nothing bigger in them. But like, if it's that, every single person said, we're going to go catch 5 and then go do our day. It's like, that's just so crazy about that lake is that part of it. But yeah, full tournament.
And that's why I always say you cannot paint every lake with a broad brush in the state of Alabama, because you have some lakes that people are irate that you need stocking. You need stocking, you need stocking, you need stocking. Proof at Lake Martin, you need harvesting. We need to harvest about 1 million of those 12-inch spots, because the food source on that deep, clear lake is just not as prevalent as what you see on the Tennessee River. So stocking would not work on that lake, but it might work on a different lake if you're stocking for genetics or whatever. But I love it when people try to paint every lake with a broad brush and everything works the same on every lake, whether it's Tennessee, Texas, Ohio. It just doesn't. I do think there is some science behind that, but Lake Martin is one of those lakes that we need harvesting. We need a day of just harvesting on that lake. Logan Martin Lake, another lake that has a ton of limits, getting there March the 29th. Go ahead, Darien.
Imagine we do a harvesting tournament and we just let everybody just slay and bring everything back for the Martin tournament, and everyone just got their live wells pegged full of just dead ones everywhere.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. If we could do it for a good cause, Darien.
It would be good.
God.
Everyone would get their freezers full. Imagine
And
how many
Jax provides hush puppies.
Yeah.
Hush puppies.
Yeah,
I'm here for it, dude. Why do we not have more fish fries?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, certainly Lake Martin with a deep, clear lake, very clear body of water. That's where I'd go if I was going to harvest to eat, no doubt. I don't know that I'd be on the Tennessee River if I was wanting to eat bass, but certainly.
Yeah, you're the only person in the world that you can only weigh in 1 bass, and it's a pound penalty if they're dead. that you were advocating for a fish fry tournament at Lake Park.
I'm not advocating for a fish fry tournament, but I am saying, and the fisheries guys will say this, is
For sure.
you have an abundance of 12-inch bass in that lake, and
No
the
doubt.
food source is not as
So-
abundant
so
there.
2025 is catch and release and grease. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Y'all,
Daniel
stop.
Montgomery going to be up there with a fillet knife at the ball station.
I tell you what, these first two are going to be extremely long weigh-ins. I could tell you that. I think we had
No
about a
doubt about
215,
that.
220 limits at Logan Martin 2. Good spotted bass fishery, very healthy fishery. They had some 26, 27-pound weights early in the year last year. I hope we stumble upon that this year. I'd love to see Logan Martin show
over
that.
20 in that one for sure.
I think so. April 26th, Alabama River. I
Catch
think
fest. It'll be another long way in. Yeah.
I think that might be one of the better times of the year to have that. I think we'll look at shad spawn on that one as well. May 17th, Lake Eufaula.
Just you follow things.
Hot.
Hot. It'll be hot. It's always hot there.
It won't be as hot as it was. Surely to God, it won't be as hot as it was on June 15th of this year.
You just
I think that
cursed
would
us.
be cool just because we'll get to see more swim jig fishing versus like just straight
Yeah.
offshore stuff. Because Eufaula swim jig fishing is like probably one of the best lakes to do it, and also that lake poses such a when they drop the water, it's like the practice always goes so good, and then overnight on Friday night they drop the water and some more like that's a thing too on that lake. So then you got to really adapt to it. But if things go well on Eufaula, swimming a jig be a lot of fun, and it'd be cool to see like that difference of like some people are going to be fishing offshore, some people are only going to be on the bank and have a legitimate chance to win on the bank.
Well, down
agree.
there this year we saw Shallow take the trophy
Yeah.
home too. So
Yeah.
it could suit that even more.
Yep.
June 21st, Lay Lake. I know Chris Rutland, Kobe Carden licking their chops. I think they have won 3 out of, 5 tournaments down there when it's been in June. Anything post spawn, you just about can't beat them down there. So that's going to be a good one. I'm excited to go back to Lay Lake. We're going to be there in just a couple months for the championship. Let's talk Wheeler Lake for the championship. I want to point out that is my home lake currently, as for 7 more days. Heaviest weighted Alabama Bass Trail Championship in the history of Alabama Bass Trail, 41-41 for 2 days. Will we beat that in 2025?
Be close.
I think
Yeah.
it could. I think it could. How fun that would be for me and anyone who loves Wheeler Lake, who's always been the stepchild to Lake Gunnersville, to have the 2 heaviest weighted championships be on Wheeler Lake.
I can see that.
I think
Wheeler's a
that'd be fun.
fun lake. It's just like it's changing for the better right now, it seems like. But I think everyone who goes to Wheeler has such high expectations because you don't get to fish for smallmouth at a lot of the lakes in the state. So it's like for me, like that was always a really cool thing. You can catch smallmouth on Wheeler, but it's just such a tricky little sucker because it's so long and it's intimidating that like there's just such a vast place to go fish. But I think for a championship, that'd be a really cool place. I'm excited about that one.
I bet Mitch.
Wheeler's
I think
about.
the champion.
I was going to say Mitch Mitchell.
Yeah.
Mitch is excited about that one.
I bet you Mitch Mitchell, Chandler McCollum cannot wait to get there. What were you going to say, Jason?
I think going that time of year, you're really going to see the guys spread out a lot. Of course, guys are going to run way up, but I think guys will run way down. It won't be like this last year where we're all just right on top of each other. So I think that's really going to help make the lake, help guys see that the lake's good all over that time of year.
Maybe people will tune in November when we're there for the ABT 100. We may see something there that might key them into what things are going to be like in 2025. I want to talk about the ABT 100 too, because you guys do cover that starting off January the 18th at Lake Guntersville. You can bet Donnie and Tony have signed up for that little jewel. So that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, Donnie and Tony, they're going to bookend it on two of their favorite lakes. So those two have taken more of my money on Wilson Lake than any two people on any lake I've ever competed on. Like they are, when that schedule came out, oh my gosh, he probably not even sleeping right now.
Will we see over 30 pounds in January at Lake Gunnersville?
Yes,
Will we see over 32.02? That's the
maybe.
record.
Maybe. If it's anything like it was this year, like people were just get out of the truck and catch 30 pounds standing at the Browns Creek, boat ramp. It was silly. So we'll see. This year, it's never slowed down. And Darien has fished Gunnersville way more than I have over the years when he was living over there, especially. But normally you go through these lulls, I feel like, during the year. Oh, they're not catching them as good. It has been lights out since the calendar flipped over to 2024. Like every week it's taking crazy weight. It's never slowed down. So if that trend just keeps going, it could take 35 to win that one. Like it could be absurd.
I have to say that's one of the ones I'm the most excited about. We've never got to be at Gunnersville that early in the year. And I always see the BFLs go just a tad bit earlier than us, and they have those big weights, and we don't have that. So I am excited about that one. Will I be sad to see our 32.02 record end just because it was Jerry and Brandon and how cool that story was with them being the last team in and then spending half of their winnings to pay for their friend's burial site and everything. So I will hate to see that go, but I do believe that that's going to be the first opportunity we have to see that record fall in a long time. So I'm excited about that. We'll be back to back at Lake Eufaula. We're going to be there May 17th, and then we'll go back on June 7th for the ABT 100. Getting a little more offshore time frame. That's about 3 weeks later in the year. So we'll be back to more of that offshore. Of course, Shane Powell and Tim Fox signed up for the ABT 100s this year. Any reason, any guesses as to why they signed up?
Jason, you want to go ahead and claim that you're going to follow right now?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say that the wig will probably come out at that tournament. It will be probably at takeoff. He'll just let it fly all the way.
Anthony Goggins will be in that event as well. He has signed up with Randy Wiggins, who was part of the winning team with Michael Hood and Randy Wiggins on Wheeler a couple years ago. So, all right. And then we finish up at Wilson Lake. I don't have a ton of tournament information on Wilson Lake because there's just not a ton of big tournaments that take out of there, but we'll be going out to the waterfront area there in Shoal Creek. Is that in the Shoal Creek area of the lake? So looking forward to that. The people there have been super nice. They're doing a lot of renovation there. We'll have a nice stage up area, use the state boat ramp, as well as a couple of other ramps. But any thoughts on Wilson Lake? Jason, do you have any experience down there on Wilson? Darien's got his hand up.
I have been with Luke Dunkin to Wilson and seen some of the most top secret things I've ever seen while bass fishing. Some things that I've sworn to secrecy that I would never release the information on. And I promise I will release all the beans on my Instagram Live. The Monday night before that event, I'll do a Facebook Live personally and spill all Luke Dunkin's top secrets. So what's that?
That's one I wish I was in. That's one I wish I was in.
Sign up.
The tournament.
Sign up.
Yeah.
What's your guesses there, Luke, in November Wilson Lake 100 boat tournament? Last tournament of the year, maybe it's going to be around 95 boats.
It completely depends on the weather. If we get some cold weather, the colder the better. That dam bite could be really good. You could see a 22-pound plus, of just smallmouth. So we could see a lot of big smallmouth on that one. But Wilson's just got them. It is. I always say Gunnersville is the best lake in the country based on the fishing pressure that it gets, but Wilson is like this 15-mile long just gem on the Tennessee River that gets the brakes beat off of it every day. Like, understand that there are more bass fishermen per acre in Lauderdale County that go to in Lawrence County, Tennessee, where I'm at. Wilson just gets a lot of pressure, and it just kicks them out all the time. I mean, I've always had a soft spot for that place. And completely, though, that one depends on the weather. Will it be nasty the day of the tournament, right? Like blowing against the current up there. It can create a lot of different scenarios, but I think we see well over 20 to take that one. Probably not as much as you would if it was, say, in March. It'll probably take a lot more weight, and the fall kind of they're a little more scattered out. But we could see a big bag that day, and you can park at Wheeler Down for sure. Jason, you can just go ahead and go up there and spot lock now and wait on them because they're kind of.
What scenarios will we see that day? Will it be raining? It'll be all of those because the ABT's coming to town, but it will not affect those guys fishing at all. They will still hammer them on that day for sure.
No doubt. No doubt about it. Kay, did Jimmy Mason sign up for those?
Yes.
Who's he fishing with?
David Pear. That's his ABT 100 partner.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
He's probably pretty excited about both the whole schedule, I'd say, too. Jimmy probably got that one circled.
Yeah, and I'm sure we have, I believe Eddie Jules in there as well. Eddie will be fishing those if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, there's quite a few guys that fish the Tennessee River often that have signed up on the ABT. It was heavy Tennessee River this year. Never know, maybe it's heavy Coosa River next year, but this year it was, and we filled up in 53 hours. Last year it took us 11 days, 12 days. This year, no, it didn't. It took 6 days last year.
Well, I will say I ran into Eric Morris, the one and only Eric Morris, fishes ABT, at an event I was at last weekend, and he accused me. John Simpson was with me at this event of me making the schedule. He said, "This has got you written all over it." I said, "Understand one thing, buddy. Miss Kay does not call me and ask me where we should go fish. Like, understand that. I am just the guy that runs my mouth. I get told about it after it's finished."
I'm glad that you got blamed for it. I'm glad you got blamed.
I did indeed get blamed for it. I did, and he was like, "What the heck, man? You just want to stay close to home? Like, what's the deal?"
Well, I want to ask you about something. I was listening to a podcast you did the other day with Trait and Chris Zaldane, and your comment was nobody wants to deal with Miss Kay. What is that about?
Nobody wants to smoke Miss Kay.
I was sitting there listening to that, and I was like, okay, I either have some people really, really fooled, or I'm really a B. One of the two.
I think you're pulling that out of context. You're trying to do me like they do Joe Rogan all the time. You're trying to cancel me right now. I said some really nice things on there. I love my ABT family, and I said ain't nobody trying to mess with Miss Kay.
No, and it's so funny. People call me, they're like, "I hate to bother you," and you can hear it in their voice, like they really hate to bother you. A guy called me at like 7 o'clock on Friday night, and he goes, "I am so sorry to bother you." It's okay. It's fine. But I can tell that first meeting, I think I just pretty much push him over the edge. So, all right. I do want to get predictions from you guys. Registration opens.
Lay down the law in the meeting and everybody's scared to death.
But you have to lay down the law. And I think that is one of the reasons that we sell out as quick as we do, not because we lay down the law, but because we stick to it. There's really no gray area with us. And I'm glad that John Simpson sees it that way. Daniel Montgomery sees it that way. That is one of the hardest questions to ask is, can you disqualify one of your friends? Because a lot of our friends fish this trail. And I'll say this, one of the hardest decisions, not that it wasn't a hard decision, it was a hard thing to do, was disqualify Trey Swindle. It wasn't hard to do it because it was the right thing to do, but did it hurt because I know Trey and think the world of him? Yes, it did hurt, but it was the right thing to do. And I've said this before. We had a disqualification at Lay Lake a couple years ago, and before I left the boat ramp, the only people that knew about that were the people who were disqualified: John Simpson, Daniel, and myself. That's it. Before I left the boat ramp, I received a text from someone other than those people saying that we did the right thing. So if it traveled that fast when we did the right thing, how fast would it have traveled if we didn't do the right thing? So it's what you have to do. And I think that too is what contributes to us selling out as fast as we do, because we're pretty transparent about those things as well. All right. Selling out opens up August 15th. Sorry, don't let me misquote that. August 15th.
Now you got people taking off.
I know. Oh God, I gotta be on 16. August 15th, 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Luke Dunkin. How long does it take to sell out?
48 hours. Sell out. Quick as ever. 2 days.
Last year was 22 minutes.
22 minutes.
22 minutes.
Yeah, on August
that was
15th.
We're talking about the
My set sheet.
the Alabama Bass Trail. We're talking about that one.
Okay. Well, then 15 minutes. I'll price is right last year. Then I thought it took longer last year.
Mm-mm.
I'm
I
new
got this
here.
long email with a bunch of notes in it too.
Well, buddy, listen, I can barely read. I went to county school in Tennessee.
All right, Darien, what's your guess?
I think because of how much we're doing, like media wise, content wise, the podcast coming out, I think people are more aware. I do think it's going to break last year. I'm going to go with 19 minutes on the dot.
All right. Jason?
Man, I'm gonna risk it, but I risk it for the biscuit there, and not a biscuit that's gonna make me sick though, okay? But I would say it's barely gonna get into double digits.
So you're saying 10,
saying
11?
So 10, 11.
Less than 48 hours, then, huh?
Definitely less than 48 hours.
Did you see the look I got when I said 48 hours? I didn't
Kay
prep for
popped
this
her
part
head
of the
up on the
podcast.
paper.
I was like,
All right,
Kay.
Kay, what's your answer?
My answer, only because I kind of know what goes into registration and all the stuff that you have to type in and choose and all the stuff. I'm going to stick around that 20-minute mark just because just all the stuff you have to type in and choose and all that. So,
So you think that's the minimum time required to get things done? Like you can't speed it up too much.
well, you know, a lot of that's going to depend on, no, you have to, there's no way to cheat the system. Like you have to go in. The only thing you don't really have to mark is your bonus programs, but everything else, your boat, your motor, all that stuff, you have to do the drop downs on. So, you can cheat the bonus programs and come back and redo that, but, you can't type your email in twice. So we hopefully we fix that where you can't do that. We make them fill out their cell phone number. Well, in priority, you have to fill out your cell phone number and your email, just because, you know, as we found out, a lot of our guys change that every 6 months. They have a new email address. So I think the minimum to be able to get through, and it is really about getting to the credit card processor quicker. I mean, it is about getting to that and getting your credit card processed the quick. So the more that you know your information and have it ready to enter it and all of that is going to be a time sensitive, but also how many places we have left after the 14th. So we've averaged around that 35 to 45 range each year in each division. So let's say you only have 25 spots left. You very well could be in that 10-minute time frame. So a lot of it's going to depend on what we have left at the end of the 14th. What available inventory in y'all sweet tea lingo, available inventory is
Hey,
what.
speaking of that, Miss Kay, I just want to let everybody know, if you're listening to the podcast, if you'd like to get in early, Darien's going to have a code. Y'all can reach out to Darien. I'll post his phone number. Y'all give him a call. Hit up the Y'all Sweet Tea Facebook page if you want early entry into the ABT. Is that guaranteed, Miss Kay? If they go through Darien, do they get in? Spam his inbox.
Hey, I tell you what, if I have had, I counted over the weekend, I had 13 messages about getting in early. I had a guy email me yesterday, said, I'm trying to get me and my wife in and I can't. And I said, well, you're only eligible if you fished last year until the 15th. Thanks for the clarification. So 13 messages over the weekend about people, new teams trying to get in. Yeah. So it's encouraging. And those messages start about May. About the time we announce the schedule and all of that, they start. And then in July, that really heats up. So, and that's a blessed place to be for all of us.
That code is y'all come on. Y'all come on. I got you.
I mean, Jason is just spitting stuff this morning, is he not?
He's always on it. You act like he's not always on it, dude. Jason is always on his game. $1,000,000%. Darien and I talk about that all the time. He stays on it.
He is spitting some truth this morning. I tell you that.
Whatever.
Well, I'm excited. I know that you guys have gotten to talk to Angela and have some dialogue with her. I know she's working really hard on some things behind the scene for the championship. So I'm looking forward to getting her to an event. She's excited about registration. She was one of the first people that texted me after registration opened at like 3 hours into it. Hey, how are things going? So she's just as excited as we are. So I appreciate that. Well, I know you guys have a busy day. I appreciate y'all making some time for me. And from Robbie Floyd, he called me on Friday, told me good luck, and on registration said what a great job you guys have done all year long. He's enjoyed watching it from the side, and just kind of being a fan now. So he told me to wish y'all all the best. I told him I'd get to talk to y'all on Monday. So
Shout out Robbie.
well, thank y'all for taking time, and we'll see who wins after the 15th. All right.
Love it.
Not me.
No, not guessing 48 hours. If you win, I'm going to be very disappointed with your
48
first
hours.
answer. I'm just
Maybe
going
I
to
know
be.
things y'all don't. Maybe I know things y'all don't.
I hope you don't know that thing. Ms. K will be in a panic mode. I remember what it was like when it took 75 or 72 days and 45 days and all of that to fill up. I remember those days. I remember watching. It's funny. We were talking about this going to Nashville Saturday. Every time my phone would go off, I remember literally checking my phone constantly. Darien, I know you do this with when y'all do launches and all that kind of stuff, but constantly looking, going, oh my gosh, another one. Oh my gosh, another one. Oh my gosh, another one. And Darien, not Darien, Daniel, John, and Angela all texting me after we opened day one. How did we do day one? How did we do day one? But I remember that, like looking at my phone constantly, another one, another one, another one. So
like DJ Khaled.
Beat me to it.
It's good to look there, and there's 4 right now. So that's good. That's always fun to look at your phone. But I will say I'm not as tied to it as I was the first few years. That's for sure. So, well, thank y'all for tuning in with me today, guys. There you have it. Maybe by the next time we do this, we'll have a name for this crew. The Shady Crew covers it a good bit, especially after listening to Jason with all his tactics that he's using.
Listen, man.
Jason's
sneaky. The
he's
sneaky crew
ruthless.
might be better. Jason's sneaky.
He is. He hides behind that gentle, soft personality and then just gets you. All right. Y'all have a great rest of the day. Guys, you stay tuned for the third and final segments, and we'll wrap this thing up. Y'all have a great day.
Research and development is more than just time in the shop for us. It's time out here. Sweating the details. Making boats that work as well in the real world as they do on paper. From our R&D team to our anglers on the water, we have the knowledge and passion to build you the finest fishing platform in the world.
Welcome back to the third segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. There you have it, broken down from what it's like fishing the Alabama Bass Trail to what it's like being on the water, covering different teams and special moments that we saw out on the water. I will say I have to really echo what Jason said, just the amount of pressure that was on us in January to have that event, for it to be successful, to be able to cover it and bring you guys on the water coverage was tough. But everybody just put their heads down and grinded through it, and it ended up being a very, very successful event. So I agree. I think that was one of the best probably memories from 2024. We are 2 days away from opening registration to the public. I'll be able to give you a little bit more of a head count on the 14th, but right now we are around that 95 to 100 registrations, but we are really only 5 days in. So that typically changes between the 10th and the 15th. So I do want to remind everyone who is in the Camden, Wilcox County area that August the 20th at 10 a.m. we will be doing the long-awaited memorial and dedication to James Big Daddy Lawler. Governor Ivey, Chris Blankenship, the Commissioner of Department of Conservation, will be on hand, along with a host of others that will be there to not only pay their respects, but to recognize the accomplishments and the dedication that Big Daddy shared toward the Black Belt Adventures. I do want to give a huge shout out to my board member and to the director of the Alabama Black Belt Adventures organization, Pam Swanner, for really chairing this event. She and I worked with each other on it, but unfortunately with my schedule, Pam's had to bear the brunt of a lot of that, and I appreciate her doing that. It will be nice to honor our friend and legend there in the Black Belt area, Mr. Big Daddy Lawler. I know he is so missed. But that does wrap it up for this week's podcast. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. Please send us, if you would like us to cover a topic, or if you would like for us to interview someone, please send us that in our inbox on Facebook at Alabama Bass Trail Tournament Series. You can always email Angela or myself, Angela at alabamabastrail.org, or Kay at alabamabastrail.org. We'll do our best to handle that for you, but I do want to thank you. I know that there are tons of podcasts out there for you to watch, and I'm glad that you choose to listen or watch the Alabama Bass Trail. I look forward to getting back with you the week after I move. Thank you for your grace and allowing me to record this early and have next week to get moved and set up and all ready for registration on the 15th. I hope you have a blessed day, and we will see you on the air in a week. God bless, good fishing, and as Big Daddy would always say, get outdoors.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabastrail.org.